Today we'll be making monkfish curry, and it will be Indian style. So as you can see, we're going to use quite a few spices and different ingredients here, but don't be intimidated by this. This is actually quite easy. It's just it takes a lot of time to get all the spices. So before we do anything else, let's add about 2 tablespoons worth of vegetable oil. This is going to be olive oil to our pan, and we're going to heat this up to about medium-high heat. So while our oil there is heating up, why don't we just get started on some chopping here. So we have some shallots and tomatoes that I'm going to chop up quite finely, also some peppers and coriander here. Now we also have a good chunk of ginger here that I'm going to slice up quite finely, as well as about a tablespoon or a little bit more worth of garlic. Now these you could probably press through one of those machines and make it into a paste. I don't have one of those, so I'm just going to super finely mince it here. As for our monkfish chunks, I like to cut them into about an inch thick pieces. Now we're going to add some of our whole spices into the pan here just for a few seconds. This is going to be about 5 grams worth of cumin seeds, 5 grams worth of mustard seed, and about 10 or so curry leaves. So I'm just going to pop all of that in here, and this doesn't need to sit for long. I just want to heat them up to release some of that extra flavors from them. All right, so now that our whole spices looks nice and comfortable in here, I'm going to add in our shallots alone first of all, and I'm going to let them sit here in the heat and fry for probably about 2 minutes or so. I just want them to turn a little bit translucent. So our shallots here are looking beautiful. Let's add in our minced garlic as well as our minced ginger here. So I'm going to let this brown up for a moment now, probably 2 or 3 more minutes. And once our beautiful shallots have started turning brown, we'll be adding in our tomato to the mix as well. Alright, so our shallots here are starting to look brown and beautiful, much like the people of the Indian subcontinent. I miss India. Me and my brother went there for a whole month last year. I haven't eaten much Indian food since then, to be honest. So I'm going to add in all our chopped tomatoes to the mix here. And I'm going to let this sit for a couple of minutes and let the tomato juices reduce a little bit. So now I'm going to add in our ground spices. So this is going to be about a teaspoon's worth of turmeric, a teaspoon of garam masala, and a teaspoon of like ground up coriander, as well as about 10 grams worth or 2 teaspoons worth of chili powder. Feel free to reduce the chili powder if you can't handle spicy foods. Word of advice there, this is going to be quite spicy. So I'm just going to toss all that in. Be careful with the turmeric, as you know. I actually spilled it all over the floor while I was measuring this up, because that stuff really stains. So I'm just going to incorporate this in here nicely. This doesn't need to take long. I just want everything to be mixed in there. And it's really starting to smell like India here now, in a good way. So next up, I'm going to add about a cup's worth of water into the mix. And I'm just going to give this a couple of minutes here to reheat. So our mixture here is starting to come to a simmer. By the way, be careful with the utensils and stuff too. That's going to stain now. Everything that touches this is going to stain a little bit now. I also have about 200 milligrams worth of coconut milk, and I'm gonna pop that in here. In addition to this, we're gonna add just a tiny bit of salt here. Don't overdo this, just a little bit. You can taste it if you want to see how salty it gets. So I'm gonna give this a couple of more minutes here to reheat now with the incorporated coconut milk. Probably a minute or 2 should be plenty. So our next step here is going to be to add in the monkfish that we cut up. Now be careful when you put it in. Again, splash damage from the turmeric there. This is going to need to cook for a little bit. These are pretty thin chunks, so I'm thinking let's just do 3 minutes here, because they'll be cooking a little bit afterwards as well. So our fish is starting to look good, so I'm going to add in about 3 or so big chilies there. Also along with that, I'm going to add about 10 grams worth of tamarind paste. If you haven't tried tamarind paste, it's kind of sour, salty. It's hard to describe really. So I'm gonna mix that in there. I'm gonna give this a couple of minutes here to incorporate as well. So to finish things off here, I'm gonna turn off the temperature entirely, and I'm gonna toss in what I would describe as a handful of coriander, and I'm just gonna gently stir that in. And here we have our dish, nice and finished. Now I'm gonna plate this over some white rice. I think probably chapati or even a garlic naan would be delicious with this, but I don't have that, so I'm gonna have to stick with the white rice. Look at this, my mouth is again watering. That seems to be like a great taste indicator. So let me get a little slice here, or spoonful I guess, and cheers. Oh, that's good. That takes me back. I will probably say though, this is very spicy, so probably cut a little bit down on the chili if you're not used to this. Besides that, it was surprisingly fresh with those big chilies in there and all the herbs it kind of takes me back to India in the sense that there is so much happening at the same time in this dish. But if you like a lot of taste with your monkfish worked perfectly with this dish, I would say. I can very much recommend this one, and I'll put together a recipe of exactly how I made this in the video description. There will be like a link to my website there. If you want to see more monkfish videos, guess what? I'm making another one tomorrow as well. So tap here if you want to see that. Thanks for watching today, and I'll see you tomorrow.